Welcome everyone to another episode of Fins Nation. I'm your host Louis Sung, and today we're going to be talking about everyone's favorite topic, the offensive line. I know this is everyone's favorite topic because if you are in the Only Fins Discord server, which by the way, if you haven't yet, you can always join using the link in the description below. It's only $3 a month to get some of the best Dolphins talk that you will ever find anywhere on the internet. So if you haven't done it, do it. Now, the reason I know it's everybody's favorite topic because that seems to be the only thing anybody is capable of talking about right now. So it's amazing how topics can change so dramatically depending on what's going on. When it was Jaylen Ramsey, it was Jaylen Ramsey, but that only lasted for a couple of days because the discussion quickly became, where's our right tackle? And then the Miami Dolphins signed David Long, and it was like, well, that's great. We like the fact that we have a linebacker. That was one of the biggest needs. Where's the right tackle, by the way? It's just going on and on and on with no end in sight. It feels like until the Miami Dolphins pick up a player that everybody knows like as a household name, the satisfaction is not going to be there with the right tackle position. Now, granted, I understand, and we will get into everything that's going on with that tackle position, but before we get too far into everything, I just want to go ahead and make sure that I mention that this show is brought to you by PrizePicks.com. PrizePicks.com is a revolutionary fantasy platform where you can now pick up to 6 different players across professional sports leagues, whether that's the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, the NHL, one of each. It's up to you. All you have to do is just choose the over or the under on those individual players' fantasy projections, whether that's individual stats or the classic fantasy point projections. They will give you free squares. They have special Taco Tuesday promos. And if you are listening to this today, it is Flex Friday. And they have Flex Friday specials to where you can get your money back if you lose or even multiply the amount of money you can normally win. So with offers like that, it's hard to justify not signing up. So use the promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. Again, that's promo code 5, FIVE. Go to PrizePicks.com. And if today is Flex Friday, when you're listening to this, make sure you get on there, put in that $100, get the free $100 in, and who knows, maybe you'll get your money back if you lose. There's pretty much nothing to lose at that point. So go to PrizePicks.com and use that promo code to get started today. This show is also brought to you by All Pro Construction Builders. If you're looking to protect your home or business with impact-rated windows and doors, make sure you contact All Pro Construction Builders. They specialize in impact windows and door installations, and for residential and commercial properties, All Pro Construction Builders is a state-certified, licensed, and insured general contractor that services Miami-Dade, Monroe, and Broward counties. They only use top-quality products that are locally made, and they are a family-owned and operated business where you will only deal with the owner from start to finish. They offer competitive and affordable pricing as well as 100% financing with no upfront cost or down payment. So if you are looking for a trustworthy and reliable contractor who offers quality service, make sure you contact All Pro Construction Builders. They will provide you with a free estimate and help you protect your home in less than 8 weeks. Call Danny at 305-484-4429 and make sure to mention 5 Reasons Sports to get a 10% discount. Again, that's Danny at 305-484-4429 and make sure to mention 5 Reasons Sports to get a 10% discount and get your free estimate to get you started in less than 8 weeks. Okay, everyone, so let's get into this offensive line talk. So, first and foremost, I'm just going to go ahead and bring it up. I understand. I get it. I feel the frustration. I really do. The offensive line is something that even I have harped on for many, many, many years now, about how important it is to have a great offensive line so that your quarterback can remain upright. And I have wanted them to invest heavily in the offensive line in ways that are actually effective, not just in drafting players that don't meet up to their expectations. Liam Eichenberg, Austin Jackson. I get it. I really do. With that said, it was not but 1 year ago that the Miami Dolphins waited until pretty much the tail end of free agency to sign their future Pro Bowl level left tackle. Teron Armstead was not signed the first day of free agency. Teron Armstead was not signed the 4th or even the 5th or 6th day of free agency. It's been only a few days since free agency officially opened. And no, the Miami Dolphins have not signed a right tackle. There is still the distinct possibility, and everybody needs to be ready for this, that the Miami Dolphins may not sign a right tackle at all. At the very least, not one that everybody recognizes by name and says that's the guy who's going to replace Austin Jackson. Chris Grier has already said that Austin Jackson is going to get the chance to compete for the starting job. Now, if he decides that the best way to do that is to make sure that his competition is not very strong, then I would say that that's not a smart move, but we can't sit here and say the Miami Dolphins haven't not already made massive steps towards trying to make a championship. Need I remind everyone that the Miami Dolphins traded for Jaylen Ramsey? They signed David Long, a linebacker. They signed Deshaun Elliott, a safety, in the wake of Jordan Poyer deciding to go back to Buffalo. They brought back their running backs, who I don't care what anybody says. They are not mid running backs. They almost both ran for 1,000 yards. Individually, both of them almost ran for 1,000 yards. And they very well could have if running the ball had been a higher priority in 2022. And they've made some other depth signings as well. They brought back Nick Needham, which is very important. They've gone ahead and they've signed a wide receiver, Braxton Berrios, who maybe he does something more than just return kicks. Who knows? Maybe he does something interesting. Maybe being back in Miami will awaken something in him that will bring him back to what he was back at Now, I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen, but I'm not going to sit here and say Braxton Berrios is a scrub. And, of course, the signing of Kendall Lamb. Last time I spoke about Kendall Lamb, it was just this last show. And reminder, again, in that game that he was taking over for Teron Armstead, he looked pretty darn solid before he had to get carted off the field. Solid enough that nobody's complaining about bringing him back. Now, the problem is they're looking at him as more of a swing tackle than anything else. The backup that you call upon when something goes wrong. I understand that. I really get it. Kendall Lamb does not exactly inspire confidence as a starter, but you never know where you might find a diamond in the rough. Okay? Because let's think about this for a second. Many years ago, the Miami Dolphins had drafted Billy Turner. And Billy Turner was used as a guard. He briefly got looks at tackle, but not very often. And everybody thought he would not really amount to much of anything. He goes to Green Bay, and not only is he considered a serviceable starter, there are Dolphins fans calling for Billy Turner to be signed again, now that he's proven himself. So we're trying to pick up our own scraps after they've already left the first time. But now they're good, and that makes all the difference. Jermaine Illuminor, another perfect example, just went back to the Raiders. He was on the team, and the Miami Dolphins cut him. Why did they cut him? I guess they just didn't see it in him. But apparently the Raiders did, and they saw enough that they decided to bring him back. He's a starter. So sometimes it's not just the player being bad. Sometimes it just takes a little longer for someone to actually develop. Sometimes it takes the right coaching, the right position. Sometimes you just catch lightning in a bottle. Who is to say that Kendall Lamb is not Miami's version of this? Who is to say that this journeyman offensive lineman who has jumped from team to team, at 30 years old, suddenly becomes somebody who's worthy of being a starter? Again, I know the New England Patriots are not exactly considered a superstar pass-rushing football team anymore. Those days are gone, at least for now. But for Kendall Lamb to step in for arguably one of the best left tackles in NFL history and look good doing it, you have to give him some level of credit. Who knows? Maybe this scheme, maybe this new offensive line coach, maybe he just finally had it click for him. It doesn't only happen to players outside of the Dolphins, everyone. Sometimes, it doesn't happen very often, but sometimes you get lucky and you manage to find a guy who can get the job done where no one else was looking. No one was willing to give Kendall Lamb the time of day until Miami called him up and said, I want you to be on the practice squad. And then in wake of Teron Armstead's injury, he was able to step in, play, and prove that there might just be something there. Now keep in mind, I'm not sitting here and just trying to say that Kendall Lamb is the answer at right tackle. I'm not suggesting that for even a second. For all we know, Kendall Lamb is only good at left tackle, and if we moved him over to right tackle, he would suddenly not look good. What I am saying, however, is that just because they haven't signed a household name does not mean that they have not looked at the right tackle position and tried to say that they're addressing it. Maybe in some way, Butch Barry was their way of addressing it. Maybe his style of coaching is the thing that finally wakes up some of these other players who are already on the roster. The Dolphins just brought back Jerron Christian. Now, the guys at 3 yards per carry have said that maybe they need to look into it a little bit more and that maybe there's something there that we're missing. Most people are not convinced, and understandably so. It's not like Jerron Christian has really done much of anything to prove that he's a superstar player in the making. Then, of course, there's Keon Smith, who, in spite of the fact that he never really looked all that great on the outside looking in, the Miami Dolphins have kept him around. In fact, they've kept him around over players that many people said, why did you let this guy go, but you kept this other guy instead? Who's doing the evaluating? If we are going to sit here and say that we trust Mike McDaniel and his coaching staff to make the right calls, then we cannot sit there and question them when they say that this guy is worth keeping around and we're going to invest in him. Not to reopen old wounds or anything, but back in the days of Brian Flores, we were looking at Nick Needham as being one of the worst players that we had ever witnessed and saying that he deserves to be cut immediately. He was constantly getting shredded during preseason games by backup players, backup quarterbacks with backup weapons, and he still couldn't get the job done somehow. We were all shocked when Brian Flores said, we're keeping Nick Needham. We were wondering, has he lost his mind? Is he supposed to be this defensive guru or what? Boy, were we wrong. Because now not only has Nick Needham proven that he can play, we have extended him not once but twice. We haven't given him the big paycheck because he hasn't asked for it yet, I guess. But now he's back on a 1-year deal, and I imagine he's going to try to eventually play to a point where he can cash in as a backup if nothing else. Although I think there are some teams out there that will be willing to pay Nick Needham as a starter. Maybe not a number 1 corner, but certainly as a number 2 or a starting slot corner. Maybe he just likes the Dolphins that much, who knows? But the simple fact of the matter is that we all thought that Nick Needham was garbage. And we would have every right to feel that way because we all saw the same thing. But there was something that the coaching staff saw in Nick Needham, in spite of his bad performance, that made them decide we need to keep this kid. And they were right. Sometimes it happens. So maybe with Mike McDaniel and his coaching staff, maybe with Butch Berry leading the way instead of Matt Applebaum, or I should say Frank Smith, since Applebaum didn't seem to be doing as much as he was supposed to. Maybe Butch Berry helps unleash something in these kids, Jerron Christian and Keon Smith. Maybe he gets something out of 30-year-old Kendall Lamb that turns him into a starting caliber player. And if he does, we're all going to look at Mike McDaniel and we're going to say, wow, this man was a genius. How did we miss it? Because sometimes we just don't spend enough time around these guys. We're not in the building 24/7, 365 like Mike McDaniel seems to be. We're not in there watching these players every single time they hit it down in practice. We're not seeing these guys do every single practice rep that they go through. It's possible that they have evaluated everything and said, you know what? We have players who can get the job done. We don't know it yet because we haven't seen it happen yet. They brought back Jerron Christian for a reason. They brought back Kendall Lamb for a reason. It wasn't just because they feel like it or they're bored. It's because I imagine that they think that there's something there that can be used. Now, as for the moves that the Dolphins are actually making, they went ahead and signed former Jets guard Dan Feeney. Jets fans don't seem particularly heartbroken to see him gone, which doesn't bode well for his career prospects. He was a starter with the Chargers for a while before he got to New York, but once he got to the Jets, he became a backup and somehow managed to lose playing time. So, not great, but again, maybe this is one of those instances where a change in coaching, a change in offensive play style, a change in scheme on the offensive line, maybe something awakens in him and he goes back to being starter level. That would be nice, because then it means that Liam Eichenberg is not going to be the starting left guard, because that's what it seems like is going to happen. But even as I say that, I have to go back to my previous point. Maybe Liam Eichenberg suddenly unleashes upon the NFL and manages to wake up. I am not predicting that. I don't even think it is likely. But it is not unheard of, is my point. And if all else fails, just remember, everybody, free agency has literally just started. There is a second wave that everybody seems to ignore in the rush to get these first guys. There are going to be teams with expensive, aging veterans who are still productive, but currently at their current state of salary or their current state of the team, maybe they're rebuilding and they don't feel a need to keep the player, or maybe they just have a better, younger player who is up and coming and they want to give him the role instead of the veteran. There are opportunities for the Miami Dolphins to upgrade the offensive line later on if something goes awry. Not everything has to be done first thing. Maybe the Miami Dolphins have already planned this. Maybe there's already a guy that they are anticipating will be released to make room for a younger player or to make a salary cap cut or anything along those lines. You never know what could happen. You never know who could miraculously shake loose, and then the Miami Dolphins will be all over that player because that was just the fit that they needed. You just never know. So be patient, Dolphins fans. I sincerely doubt the Dolphins are done just after a few days of free agency. I am sure that there is more work to be done, and it isn't just going to be in the draft. They are going to look at everything. They are going to take a long look at Austin Jackson, at Liam Eichenberg, at Keon Smith, at Kendall Lamb, at Jerron Christian, everybody. And even some players that are out there now, and even some players that might not be out there yet. Don't lose hope. I believe the offensive line will work itself out one way or another. I really do. Just be patient. It took a long time for Teron Armstead to join the team, and once he did, we were very happy. So let's just see who shakes loose this time. That's going to be it for this show. Make sure that you go to prizepicks.com, use the promo code FIVE, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you first sign up. They're going to be Flex Friday promos as you are first listening to this, if it is Friday when you're listening to this and not the day after. So make sure you go to prizepicks.com, use that promo code, get up to $100 back when you put in $100, and go ahead and try to see if you can win that Flex Friday, because they'll probably do the one where you can get your money back if you end up losing up to $20. And then, of course, if you need to protect your home or business with impact-rated windows and doors, call All Pro Construction Builders, who specialize in impact window and door installation. You call Danny at 305-484-4429 and make sure to mention 5 Recent Sports to get a 10% discount on your free estimate, and they will help you get started to protect your home or business in less than 8 weeks. They are family-owned and operated. They only use top-quality products. They operate in Miami-Dade, Monroe, Broward counties, and they are a licensed and insured general contractor. All Pro Construction Builders. Call Danny at 305-484-4429 and make sure to mention 5 Reasons Sports to get a 10% discount and get yourself started today. That's going to be it. We will see you all next week for more episodes of Fins Nation.